magazine and has been featured all over the world. It's whisper quiet while it works your abs and core, hip flexors, glutes, quads, hamstrings, and calves.
QB is a lifesaver for me.
Here's your answer to your problem.
I feel young again.
Join the hundreds of thousands of people moving more with QB. Call to find out how to get your QB with free shipping and a 30-day completely risk-free trial. You'll also get this QB workout mat free. Now keep fit while you sit with QB.
To order, call 800-289-5820. That's 800-289-5820. Call now.
If you owe $10,000 or more to the IRS or state, this may be the most important phone call you'll ever make.
I owed $87,000 in taxes. But listen.
Your tax problem is settled. You only owe $3,500.
What a great message.
If you owe $10,000 or more to the IRS or state, then you owe it to yourself to call this number. Let our experts help guide you through the process of negotiating a tax settlement. Call this number or go to tax10000.com.
You're watching RNN TV.
Good evening and welcome to RFL. I'm Richard French.
We promised to put vaccination shots in arms for every single American. Mission accomplished.
Tonight, we're going to focus on the nearly $2 trillion COVID relief bill that is on track to become law this week and show you how it's doing more to fight poverty than anything that has come out of D.C. in generations. Also, veteran D.C. journalist Jonathan Allen, he'll join us to discuss his new book. It's called Lucky, How Joe Biden Barely Won the Presidency. He'll tell you just how close it was to a second-term Trump administration. Plus, we're going to be learning more about the investigation into those abuse allegations against Governor Cuomo, including who's going to be leading the probe. We've got the very latest, including the political fallout in Albany. Then, frontline healthcare workers testifying on Capitol Hill today about the government's response to COVID, dangers posed by the new variants, and the vaccine rollout. We've got the highlights for you. But let's begin this evening with a historic COVID relief bill that's expected to pass in the House tomorrow. We know that people are wary of their government, especially after enduring the past 4 years. But we are going to show you how this bill is different, as it really does target people who need it most, without giveaways to the wealthy. That's usually how these things work out. Instead, we're going to show you how this is going to actually help the people who need it most, people to feed their families, to stay in their homes, to pay their bills, or, as the Congressman Hakeem Jeffries puts it,
the American Rescue Plan is a transformational piece of legislation.
Okay, so again, I know a lot of the D.C. stuff sounds like white noise. You've heard it all before, and does it really change your life? I'm telling you, if you're in the bottom part of the economic spectrum in this country and you've been left behind time and time again, this time it really is different. And for more on just how transformative this bill really is and could be, let's bring in Andrew Whitman.
And Rich, there's a lot to this bill, as you've been saying, so we just wanted to go through some of the details one more time. Total cost of the bill is $1.9 trillion, which helps pay for things like $1,400 stimulus checks, plus additional money to Americans if you have kids. Money for state and local governments, plus cash for schools, transit systems, and pension plans. $300 a week enhanced unemployment benefits, and the first $10,000 of unemployment benefits will be tax-free. And the bill still has nearly $50 billion for COVID testing and other scientific advances. There are a lot of ways to break down those big numbers and give you a sense of how massive and game-changing this package will be. Let's start by focusing on just one state, New York, and the benefits that the bill will bring to the state's 19.5 million residents. New York will see about $100 billion in total, about a quarter going to county and local governments, $6.5 billion for the New York City transit system, unemployment help for 1 million people, 9 million people getting checks, $9 billion for schools, $4 billion for vaccine and testing help, another $1 billion for food programs, another $1 billion for rental assistance, $500 million for mortgage assistance, and all the other things you saw on your screen. The stimulus bill also adds some new streams of assistance that are helpful for dealing with the COVID crisis, but will bring significant help in other ways too. if Congress views these as down payments and doesn't drop the ball after COVID ends. Like $39 billion in child care assistance to help get single parents back to work. And that's not just a COVID thing. The bill also expands Obamacare eligibility and increases help so that people can afford the premiums. So a 64-year-old who makes 58 grand, they'll be able to get Obamacare coverage for about a third of what it would cost without the stimulus bill. The bill directs $5 billion to black farmers who face discriminatory land policies in the past, and today on average have smaller farms and make about $15,000 a year less than white farmers. That's why the bill is being lauded as the most significant legislation for black farmers since the Civil Rights Act of 1964. The bill would lift 13 million Americans out of poverty this year, including 6 million kids. It would add about 20% to the average incomes of Americans making below $35,000 a year and would help low-earning single mothers even more. A single mom of one making a minimum wage would see more than $4,700 from the stimulus. That's 32% of their income. A single mom raising a family of four could get nearly $12,500 from the stimulus. That would be like an 82% bonus check over their regular income. Yet another measure, how Americans spent their past stimulus checks. For this, we turn to the people at Fox Business. They report a majority of Americans used their past stimulus checks to either pay rent or cover utility bills. People spend the money. And even if they don't spend it, they still help the economy. Experts say people who don't spend the money as badly or don't need the money as badly are still in a position to spend consistently going forward. So even saved checks are considered, quote, economic rocket fuel. I also want to compare the Biden stimulus to other recent similar bills. Donald Trump signed 2 stimulus bills into law last year. Lots of Americans got checked, but there was another headline from those bills. All the large businesses that got PPP money that was directed to small businesses, big franchises that also got big money even as they pay workers minimum wage, and the politically connected got money too. So as so many in need went lacking. Go back to 2009 when President Obama signed the Great Recession stimulus bill. Yes, people got help, but Wall Street got even more. It's when Americans learned that some businesses are too big to fail, if you remember that expression, but Americans themselves often allowed to just let fail. For example, there was big help for companies that write, underwrite, trade, and sell mortgages, but the vast majority of people who were stuck with bad mortgages saw little, if any, help. One more, there's been none of that with the Biden stimulus. No sector or industry gets a windfall from it. The money goes almost entirely to Americans, or will eventually. And there's one other difference I want to point out as well. President Biden's name will not appear on the checks or on the letters that come with them. The White House says that's just not a priority for Biden. It clearly was a priority for Donald Trump, who insisted his name appear on everything, Rich.
Okay, I want to get into the messaging, and we'll talk again about how it's spent. But we gave the math.
Yes.
I think you did a good job of laying out the groups that are impacted, but let's put a human face in this, because too often people hear guys like you and me in suits will talk about, a big number with a T in front of it or a bunch of B's. Well, okay, but how does it change my life? Give me some examples.
We have multiple examples, Rich. Let's start with Anique Haupt, who is a single mother in Georgia. And you see her there. We hear this story a lot. She's gonna use the child care benefits to hire a babysitter so she can go back to work. Right now, she can't go back to work because there's nobody to look after the kids. Michael Patterson is going to start physical therapy for a spinal cord injury that happened years ago. That's a sort of, I'm glad I had the chance to get around to it. Megan Holliner also wants to use the money to hire a babysitter, not to go to work, but so she can go to college and finish her degree and hopefully get a better job that helps the rest of her family. Tia Ferguson says she's going to use the money to open her own business if it does well. That helps the economy and gets people jobs. Larry Thomas wants to buy clothing and other needed items for his apartment. That seems insignificant, but spending is spending, Rich, especially when the economy is depressed. Tiffany Velez says she'll buy food with her $1,400 check. She'll also pay down her gas and electric bills. That helps the economy too. That gets that money in circulation, also keeps her in her home. Stacey Rodriguez says she would pay down her daughter's surgical costs. And Misty McDade says she plans to pay off her late car and utility bills. Also, the website Gothamist in New York City asked some residents there how they'd spend their stimulus checks. The most common answers: paying bills, paying rent, helping the family, put it in the bank, and a new car. Now, things like helping the family and the new car seems like it's just spending, but that's still helpful down the road. And as we discussed before, even putting it in the bank helps, because the people who wind up putting it in the bank will be in a position to spend on other things down the road.
You know, I've heard things like, you know, finally fixing the car here so they can run to get to work, or taking the kid to the dentist because they couldn't afford it before, or all these other things. All right, Andrew, to me, if there was a lesson to be learned, in next segment I'll be talking to Jonathan Allen, who you and I know, one of the better political reporters that's out there. He wrote the definitive book on the Clinton campaign that obviously didn't work for Hillary, but this time on the Biden campaign, how lucky he was. But to me, if there's a message that if Joe Biden learned from Obama when he inherited, like Biden did, an economic disaster in his hands when he was elected in 2008, was get as much as you can done as fast as you can. Do the big things first, and don't hope that the political parties will come together. To that end, yes, people I think will appreciate, they'll go to the mailbox and say, wow, but they got to message it too. What we just went through with that half dozen families and real things, I want to see those people. I want to see Biden go to those communities. I want those people at the White House to say, this is what I'm going to do with the money. I'm going to help my sick kid. I'm going to make sure I'm going to fix the leak in my roof. I'm going to be able to pay the rent. I'm going to put food on the table. They have to do that, Andrew. Otherwise, this is just another note in the political calendar, although millions of Americans will say it changed their lives.
And I think there's a way to do that, much in the same way we're still waiting for an ad campaign about get your vaccine because it's good. I also think, hey, be on the lookout for your child tax credits. Hey, make sure you deduct this from your taxes next year. There are ways to do this to remind people, in addition to things like photo ops and gathering people at the White House. But there are ways to remind people, helpful advice that helps remind people.
I know we're going to hit a break. I can't remember, I don't know about you, a cleaner piece of legislation that helped the right people. And to me, there's been a lot of, we had to bail out the auto industry, but we also helped out some of the folks who wrote those, you know, BS derivatives and all the rest. This is helping out the people who deserve to be helped, who need the help the most.
I'm waiting for any stories about the undeserving getting from this stimulus. Haven't seen any yet. And before previous ones, we did hear about those carve-outs. We knew they were coming before they happened.
All right. When we come back, we know that Biden obviously beat Trump, and we think of it as, hey, we're out here. Look at the millions of extra votes in the popular vote and also the electoral vote. Well, yes, but no. It was a lot closer than maybe a lot of you folks imagine. My next guest said that Biden was actually lucky to win, and his book explains why. We come back. Veteran D.C. journalist Jonathan Allen joins us. Stay with us.
Villains, robbers, bandits, crooks, they're all over your TV screen. But the biggest thieves are behind your screen. I'm talking about the cable companies. They charge monthly subscriptions, fees, rentals, and force you to take long-term contracts. Well, it's time to say goodbye to the cable guy, because now you can watch 4K Ultra HD broadcast TV for free. Introducing Clear TV's new 4K Ultra HD design, the Premium HD. Just plug it into your TV and start watching for free. You will instantly receive top-rated network shows, local news and weather, sporting events, and even Ultra HD 4K broadcast shows, all for free. Thanks to federal government mandate, all broadcasters are required to transmit a digital TV signal through the airwaves. The new Premium Clear TV lets you bypass cable or satellite to bring network and 4K broadcast shows directly to your television. Retract the antenna to keep it small or extend them for maximum reception.
Setup was so easy. I took my Clear TV antenna, plugged it into the back of the TV, and now I can watch my favorite broadcast channels anywhere in the house for free.
We're just off the coast here in the Gulf of Mexico receiving free network broadcast HD TV. Imagine all the free shows you'll receive at home. Basic cable and satellite services can cost you up to $80 a month. That's $960 a year and almost $10,000 over a 10-year period. Watch TV in as many rooms as you like with no additional monthly fees. Stop spending money you don't have to spend. Call or go online now and get your premium Clear TV 4K Ultra HD antenna for only $19.95. It's backed by our 60-day money-back guarantee. Order now, and you can add a second Clear TV free. Just pay separate processing and handling. That's a $40 value for only $19.95.
I can't believe I get all these channels for free. Plus 4K Ultra HD. Clear TV is for real.
Important healthcare news for all Americans. Whether insured, uninsured, or on Medicare, If you feel sick at midnight or your child runs a high fever, you want to immediately speak with a doctor. Now with Telemed One, you have a doctor on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Use your landline, mobile, tablet, or computer to speak or video with a board-certified doctor in your state. With Telemed One, you're quickly connected with a doctor, get diagnosed, and if medication is needed, a prescription is sent electronically to your local pharmacy. According to the American Medical Association, up to 75% of doctor, urgent care, and ER visits can be safely managed by a telemedicine plan like Telemed One. Don't delay. Telemed One is about $1 a day with no per call or video fees. Members and family get unlimited video and phone usage. Get protected now. Everyone is accepted. No insurance needed. Call.
Believe it or not, well, Trump's still complaining that the election was stolen from him, even though, as you know, no evidence and of either fraud or hijinks that would have impacted the final count. Joe Biden, he won by 7 million votes, 74 electoral votes, and in the end, this was not a nail-biter. But my next guest says Biden, he was fortunate to win. His new book is called Lucky, How Joe Biden Barely Won the Presidency. I want to bring in the co-author now, Jonathan Allen. He's also senior political reporter with NBC News. We're going to talk about the book in just a second. But first, Jonathan, about the stimulus that just passed, I know it's sometimes people get, worn down by the wonkiness or the granular elements, but this is a huge deal, particularly in such a razor-thin majorities that the Democrats have right now. This will really impact people's lives. They're going to feel this, aren't they?
Well, Richard, first, let me just say it's been a while. It's great to be back with you. Good to see you. Glad to be on RNN. You're absolutely right. To paraphrase the current president when he was vice president when Obamacare passed, it's a BFD. I think he meant a big freaking deal. And this stimulus bill will be felt by people. It's going to be felt in any number of ways. Obviously those who are collecting unemployment insurance, this guarantees them that extra benefit for a little while longer. You get money for schools, money for vaccines. As I think most Americans experienced last year when there were COVID relief bills and economic relief bills moving through Congress, it's a lot of money, and it can mean a lot of help, not just for individuals, but for small businesses as well.
And what John's referencing is before he became Mr. New York Times bestseller twice over here in a big network muckety-muck, I knew him back in the day. And in some respects, Biden seems, now maybe he fell into it. I know we're going to get into it, and that's what part of the book speaks to. He got a lot of fortuitous breaks in the campaign trail, but this is what he's good at, right? I mean, even though there's a divided Congress and there's not going to be kumbaya as much as he wishes there was, he's better at this than he is on the campaign stuff, right?
I mean, Joe Biden's been in Washington since 1973 when he was first elected to the Senate. I'm 45 years old and I've been born in the Washington area. He's been here longer than I have. And yeah, absolutely. He understands not only how Congress does work and how the presidency works and how they interact, but how they should work. This is absolutely what Joe Biden campaigned on, was the ability to get into Washington and get things done and do it in a way that didn't require breaking the system, but working within it.
I remember from your previous book, Shattered, that, and again, with the benefit of hindsight, some of the train wreck decisions, albeit with an imperfect candidate, that the Clinton campaign had. I get the sense from this one that while certainly Biden had a lot more breaks along the way than maybe Hillary did, the campaign also made a little bit more of their luck. They knew the candidate or their opponent they were running against, and they didn't underestimate Trump as much as maybe the Clinton folks did. Did Biden win the election and before that the nomination, or did his opponents lose it?
Well, it's certainly a combination of those things. Lucky is what I think all of us would like to be. And so, when you look at this question of Biden and sort of the differences between his campaign and Clinton's campaign, I mean, they're very different candidates. I think the big difference in my mind is that Joe Biden made an argument to the public, had a message for the public that was about what people wanted and how he could deliver it. Hillary Clinton's famous slogan was, "I'm with her," which was really about her. And Biden's message was more about how he could return some normalcy to Washington, how he could bring compassion and character and competence to the job. And that was a framework that served him very well throughout the primary and certainly in the general election. And we can talk a little bit more about some of those lucky breaks. But, I want people who read this book to understand that lucky is sort of in the frame of, that extra little bit that helped Biden along the way. And it also talks about a Democratic Party that did not immediately, coalesce behind him, a Democratic Party that ended up with him as a nominee and was lucky for it, because I'm not sure that any of the other candidates would have won. And we are lucky as a people that our republic still stands. I live a few blocks from the Capitol. It was stormed by terrorists on January 6th. Our republic was so fragile and so in danger. So part of lucky is simply that we continue to have this beautiful system that our founders put together.
Obviously, folks may remember Iowa, New Hampshire did not go well whatsoever. Nevada, earlier in the process, people said he really had to do well. He came in a distant second. And then we get to South Carolina. Just how indebted is Biden to James Clyburn? And just how worried was Clyburn that Biden didn't really get how much trouble he was in, and also the condition, if not, implicit, that you got to go out on that stage and you got to say, if I pick a Supreme Court justice, if an opening comes my way, I'm going to pick a black female to fill that post. Talk about that moment and how critical it was or wasn't relating to Biden's chances.
Yeah, one of the things we do in Lucky is go behind the scenes with that relationship between Joe Biden and Jim Clyburn that is so important in the story of the 2020 election and really going forward as Joe Biden tries to get legislation done in Congress. Of course, Jim Clyburn, the Democratic whip in the House, in charge of counting all those votes for Joe Biden's program now. Biden tried to get Clyburn to endorse him for many months. Clyburn held off. In the book, we go into detail in this one scene on a ship in the Charleston Harbor the night before the South Carolina debate, where Clyburn basically confronts Biden and says to him, look, your campaign's kind of going off the rails here. You really need to do X, Y, and Z from a logistical standpoint. And then Clyburn says to him, I really want you to say in that debate tomorrow night that you're going to nominate a black woman for the Supreme Court. Well, the next night, Clyburn's sitting in the debate hall. There are all of these opportunities for Biden to say that. It doesn't happen. At a commercial break late in the debate, Clyburn bolts out of his chair in the audience. His friends look at him. He's 79 years old. They think to himself, he must have to go find a bathroom. Instead, what Clyburn was doing was going into the wings, backstage of the debate to go find Joe Biden in the commercial break. And he says to him, do not leave this stage unless you have said that you're going to nominate a black woman for the Supreme Court. Biden goes back out on the stage. He does it a little awkwardly, but he makes that promise. And, the day after that, you see this really full-throated emotional endorsement from Jim Clyburn, where he talks about how much his late wife loved Biden. And the rest is sort of history, but that is the sort of touch-off point for where the Democratic Party really began to coalesce behind Biden in a way that it hadn't during the first several primaries.
One thing I didn't know until I read the book was clearly people have a lifetime and through equity relationships with Joe Biden. And those that know him, there's a very short list that speak ill of him. But I was like, where's Obama during the campaign? And there had to be a strategy involved. But even Obama was quoted in your book as saying at times, Biden's not always self-aware. He really thought things were going terrific when everybody else was telling him, Joe, you're in real trouble here. You got to turn this around. You got to tighten up the message. You got to stay on point, or whatever the case may be. Both the role of Obama, or the lack thereof, and also Biden's self-awareness as to how he was connecting or not with the public. Were you surprised at all, Jonathan, about the candidate himself and his former boss?
I mean, to the extent that Joe Biden was divorced from reality, and this sort of shines through in the book, it is that he has this essential, almost supernatural belief in himself. And it's not just Obama, but many other Democrats who were worried about where he was. That we have a scene where his aides go to him and his wife and say, look, we're so poor at this point. The campaign is so out of money that in order to continue paying staff, you're going to have to consider some pretty draconian options, including maybe refinancing one of your houses and putting your own money into this campaign, which, you know, the writing on the wall for that is that you might have to wrap up soon. Jill Biden is obviously concerned, and her husband, Joe Biden, keeps telling her, just hang on, Jill, just hang on for a little while longer until South Carolina. But with Obama, he didn't jump on board with sort of who you would think would be the natural heir to his legacy, his vice president in 2016. Instead, he sort of pushed Hillary Clinton forward, suggested to Biden, not in so many words, but suggested to Biden that Biden shouldn't run. He didn't think Biden would be a good candidate. It wasn't that he was worried that Biden was going to lose. He was worried that Biden was going to embarrass himself, and he wanted Biden's aides to make sure that Biden didn't do anything that tarnished Biden's legacy or tarnished Obama's legacy. Obviously, Obama did whatever he could to elect Biden once he realized or believed that he would become the nominee. But there is some tension between the two men.
You know, he also benefited, as we saw from, in the primary process. There was moments where it looked like Mayor Pete was doing good. Then he got taken down on the stage. Elizabeth Warren, she took down a few and also had her own comeuppance. And obviously Kamala Harris had the moment where she definitely had probably the harshest take on Biden. How close did that moment come to disqualifying her to being his running mate?
Richard, very close. The answer is very, very, very close. It bothered Biden. In the book, for the first time, we report that on the debate stage where Kamala Harris went after Biden over school busing, at the next commercial break, he turns to Pete Buttigieg and he says, this is just a bunch of BS, although he used a longer word than that. When it came time to selecting a vice president, Kamala Harris was the obvious choice for a variety of reasons, including that her resume more neatly matched that of a typical vice presidential candidate, right? She's a sitting United States senator. She'd been California Attorney General. A lot of the other candidates who were in the mix, particularly after Biden had narrowed his search only to women and really functionally was narrowing it to African-American women, the number of people who have resumes that look like those of typical vice presidents is pretty small because of the limited opportunities over time for African-American women. But Kamala Harris had that resume. She polled better than the other candidates. And of course, the Biden team was polling all of these possible candidates. And she had shown in that debate moment against Joe Biden that she could really tear someone's head off in a debate, which is the kind of thing you want from a vice presidential candidate, because you want them to be able to go after the other team's president and the other team's vice presidential candidate. So, at one point, Biden calls Jim Clyburn and says to him, Jim, I'm having a real battle between my head and my heart over who to choose for vice president. Kamala Harris was the head choice, and in the end, it was a no-brainer.
Finally, do you think Biden learned the lesson from the first Obama term, and to a degree the second, which is even if you get a signature piece of legislation through, don't stop and don't wait for, as I mentioned at the top of the interview, that the parties are going to come together and there'll be nation first, et cetera. He's going to do everything he can conceivably in the first couple of years before the midterms because he doesn't know what the Congress is going to look like after 22. Do you get the impression that he learned, if there was a mistake from the Obama years, do everything you can as soon as you can?
I think he absolutely believes that you need to do everything you can as soon as you can. In fact, when his vice presidential vetting team started talking to potential candidates, and we write about this in the book through the experience of Stacey Abrams, who was one of those candidates who was interviewed, one of the questions was, what would you do in the first 100 days? So already, even in that point, they were trying to figure out how you go big. Chris Dodd, one of his vetting team members, the way he put it to Stacey Abrams was, don't waste a crisis. You have an opportunity, a limited window here, urgency. What are you going to get done in those first 100 days? So I think Biden is very aware of that. And the one other thing I would say, Richard, just sort of as a frame for all of this, it is very easy to look at the eventual popular vote count, and it's very easy to look at the electoral college margin by the electoral college votes that stack up. But if 42,918 votes had gone the other way in Arizona, Georgia, and Wisconsin, Donald Trump would still be president. So even after all the things you and I just discussed, and so when you look back at all of the things that sort of get Joe Biden to the presidency, absolutely he did any number of things right. And at the same time, there was a little bit of a wind at his back.
Yeah, and for a deep dive into what was going on behind the scenes and just how close this thing was, it is a fantastic read. Lucky, Jonathan Allen, another great book. I appreciate the time. Good catching up with you again.
Richard, I'm so glad to see you again. Take care.
You too. All right, folks, when we come back, more and more lawmakers in New York, they want Andrew Cuomo out. But the governor, he's not going anywhere, at least of his own volition. The very latest after the break, including details of another accuser who's just stepped forward.
The first 3 months, we saved $4,100.
CarShield saved me over $6,000 in engine repairs.
I saved $4,100 out of pocket.
Amazing, amazing.
Customers everywhere agree. If your car is out of warranty, you need to call CarShield before your car has an expensive breakdown.
Without CarShield, there was no way that I could afford to get my car fixed.
An engine, transmission, or computer system breakdown could cost you thousands of dollars, but not with CarShield, America's #1 car protection provider.
CarShield saved us $4,000. That was great, right?
Yes, it was.
We're just happy with CarShield. They put a transmission in it and a motor. Who does that?
CarShield makes sure you don't have to pay for expensive car repairs.
The components that we're using are not getting cheaper. So nowadays, coverage is even more important.
CarShield covers most makes and models from 5,000 to 150,000 miles.
It's easy, affordable, and no long-term contracts.
And when customers realize that they're getting a $5,000 job for $100, they're excited. I've had customers who were so happy that they did break down into tears and cry.
We saved over $6,000 on a complete engine rebuild of our truck.
With CarShield, I saved over $3,600. It's a no-brainer.
I never have to worry about being taken advantage of when it comes to car repairs.
It's like having a suit of armor around my car.
Cars will break down, and those breakdowns could cost you thousands unless you call CarShield today and get the protection you deserve.
CarShield saved me in excess of $10,000.
And when you call, you'll also receive at no extra cost roadside assistance, towing services, and rental coverage.
If your car's out of warranty, believe me, you want to have CarShield.
Make the smart choice and protect yourself from sky-high auto repair bills. Call now for a free and instant protection plan quote. It's only a matter of time until repairs are needed. And once your car breaks down, it's too late. Call 800-858-4214, 800-858-4214.
When you fall and can't get help, you will lie on the floor for hours or days in constant, terrible anguish, which often results in a tragic outcome. But with Life Alert, one touch of a button can get you help fast.
Don't worry, help is on the way.
With any of Life Alert's 3 emergency systems, help can be summoned immediately, whether at home,
I've fallen and I can't get up.
in the bathroom,
I've fallen in the shower.
or on the go.
Help! I'm in the park and I can't get up.
And batteries never need charging. Life Alert saves a life every 11 minutes. For a free Life Alert brochure,
call 1-800-215-6582. That's 1-800-215-6582. Call now. 1-800-215-6582.
We'd like to see him resign, obviously, but he said on Sunday that he wasn't going to resign. So we think the next step is, in order to hold this governor accountable, is an impeachment proceeding. We have some huge issues that need to be taken care of in this state. And when you have 30 legislators or more calling for him to resign, you have the leader, the speaker, and the majority leader in both the Senate and the Assembly inferring that he should resign. I don't know how you govern under those circumstances.
Republicans in New York trying to take down Governor Cuomo. That shouldn't surprise anybody. But as the minority leader in the state assembly alluded to in the clip you just saw, the 2 top Democrats in Albany, Senate Leader Andrew Stewart Cousins and Assembly Speaker Carl Hastie, they're also ready for Cuomo to leave town. Now, this comes as a 6th woman has now come forward. Albany Times-Union reporting that a member of the executive chamber staff says the governor inappropriately touched her last year at the governor's mansion. She's not being identified at this time. And we're also learning more about the investigation into Cuomo's behavior, and as being led by the State Attorney General, Letitia James. The probe, it will be led by the former acting U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York, June Kim, and Andy Clark. She, an employment discrimination attorney who specializes in sexual harassment cases. We also know that they have subpoena power, and the probe will take months, not weeks. In the meantime, the governor, he's been trying to change the subject and focus on the COVID vaccine. Cuomo has been visiting mass vaccination sites, touting the success of getting shots into people's arms. Just yesterday, the state had its most successful day yet, inoculating nearly 125,000 New Yorkers in a 24-hour window. In addition, Cuomo announced an expansion in eligibility, now allowing people 60 and over to start getting the shots. Andrew, I think it's safe to say people should expect to see the governor being more visible, I think, but not taking more questions. He is not going to go quietly into the good night here. And I think we've heard the politicians, in my opinion, minus something more revelatory, and today wasn't really revelatory. It was just an allegation without a name or any specificity to it, that will force. There's a tipping point. I don't know what it is, but there has to be, I think, something substantive before the probe is finished for him to leave town of his own volition.
I actually think that today is a pretty good example that Cuomo needs to try to get out in front of this thing, needs to do more than he has been doing. The tour of vaccination sites isn't going to work. He's either going to need an exhaustive interview or a till they drop press conference or something like that. He needs to respond to this, and he needs to take action, because otherwise, I mean, you talked about how today's allegation was from an unnamed person with an unnamed event. We know the room or the building where we think it was supposed to take place. That's going to keep happening, because anybody who's had any sort of interaction with the governor that they think has been negative in any way is going to come forward, and the governor's not in a position to combat it unless he decides to do a more full-throated defense than what he's doing already. I don't think he's going to resign. I don't think he's going to be impeached. But there's a difference between that and being able to get stuff done and actually operate the state and the state government. That could be a lot more challenging, even if he doesn't, even if he's not impeached, doesn't resign.
It's going to be interesting to me because, yes, Andrea Stewart-Cousins, as we told the audience last night, she said she thinks he's got to go. Hasty didn't call for his resignation. He said what I think is the politically safe answer to say, I have legitimate questions if he can still do his job. I don't know how this ends either. I think you're right. I think a long sit down, but I think he's done that to certain degrees in favorable settings on radio, etc. Because there's so much unspecificity, and because there already is a mechanism, those are two real players. I mean, the former prosecutor at the Southern District, and for folks who know in employment circles, you know, you do not mess with that woman. They will lead an exhaustive, with subpoena investigation. He's not going to get off the hook if he did something here, but it's not going to be over for a few months.
But the legal side of that is separate from the political / public accountability side of it, and Cuomo has not made any advances on that side of it. It doesn't matter what the truth is if the public sours on him.
When we come back, everyone, we'll pivot to COVID. Cities, they've gotten slammed, as you all know, by the COVID shutdowns, and they're getting still a lot of headwinds in their recovery efforts. After the break, we're going to talk about New York City and someone who's dedicated her life to helping the businesses of the city. She'll join us to tell us just how tough things are and how she thinks the city can still get back on its feet.
Attention timeshare owners. This is an urgent consumer alert from the Timeshare Exit Hotline, a national company specializing in helping consumers legally get out of their expensive timeshare contracts. We're offering you a way to legally get rid of your timeshare. So if you're fed up with the maintenance fees that keep on coming and want to learn if you can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, call today. Even if you've tried before and were unsuccessful in getting rid of your timeshare, call today and see if we can help. We offer a complete 100% unconditional client satisfaction guarantee. Make this completely free call and learn how we can help you legally put an end to your timeshare nightmare once and for all. You have nothing to lose, so call right now to qualify and receive a free consultation. You can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, but you've got to call now. Call the number on your screen today. It's a free call.
Mary and Shirley both need oxygen. Shirley lost her freedom the day she went on oxygen, but Mary has the ultra-compact Inogen 1 G4 oxygen concentrator from Inogen. It's the smallest and lightest model we've ever made, so she'll always have the oxygen she needs anytime, anywhere. The sooner you call, the sooner you can reclaim the freedom and independence you deserve. Call now for your 30-day risk-free trial.
Call 800-683-1390. That's 800-683-1390.
Is your bathroom looking old and worn out? Want to update it, but you don't know where to start? Then let BCI Bath & Shower show you how to turn that old bath into an aisle of beauty and functionality. Our residential bathroom solutions provide the best value on the market, and our customer service is second to none. Our cost-effective BCI Bath & Shower family of products has what you need.
Remodeling our bathroom was a big decision for us.
They didn't make a mess out of our house at all. And at the end of the day, we had a beautiful new bathroom. And it was a great experience the whole way through.
We have the best monthly payment programs in the industry, with payments as low as $68 per month, or no interest, no payments for 18 months. For a limited time, be one of the first 100 callers who schedule a free in-home consultation and receive $500 off.
1-800-857-8541. That's 1-800-857-8541.
Factory trained and certified installers made in the USA, and discounts for seniors and military. BCI Bath & Shower, the leader in affordable bathroom products.
Well, we've been focusing quite a bit of our attention on the troubles of Governor Cuomo. The race to become the next mayor of New York City, that's also going to be a huge story in the coming months. New York is ready to move on from the de Blasio years, and that's an understatement. There's a large field of candidates. Many people don't know who most of them are, frankly, but one thing is certain. He or she will be inheriting huge challenges. Safety and security, plus bringing businesses back. It'll be a Herculean effort. New York is facing many of the same problems that cities across this country are dealing with. But in this segment, we focus on the Big Apple, and we have the perfect person to discuss what is going on there. Catherine Watt, she's president and CEO of the Partnership for New York City. Catherine, I'd ask how you're doing, but considering your job is New York City and getting New York City back on its feet, I kind of have an idea that not so good. Do you look at the president and say we just got to get through this, or are you really concerned what the near and medium term future holds for the city and the city that we've known before at least COVID?
Richard, you said it just right. Near and medium term is the problem. We know long term New York will rebound and be the great world city that we all love. So the near term, though, is much shakier, and how badly we handle the near term will determine what the midterm is like. We have lost more jobs in the last 10 months than we gained in the past 10 years of growth and prosperity. 500,000 plus jobs are gone from our economy, mostly concentrated in certain sectors, small business, travel and tourism, the theater, artistic sectors. And getting those jobs back is important, obviously, for the employment numbers and the economic output of the city, but it's also critically important to our culture, to why people come here, the restaurants. We've lost 5,000 restaurants. So we've got a lot of damage, and how we respond in terms of public policy, leadership, support from the federal government is going to dictate how deep and how long people are going to have to suffer and what the city's going to go through over the next decade.
And for folks who are watching this outside of New York, this may not resonate, maybe it does, but the amount of people that never thought they could work remotely but have figured it out, how much that has impacted primarily the small businesses. I mean, the financial firms, no one's racing to get back into the offices, and if they do, you know, there was slated that maybe this summer they'll be back in there. But talk about the trickle-down impact. You mentioned 5,000 restaurants, but less than 15% of office workers are back in the workplace. I mean, commercial real estate's a ghost town in a lot of places right now.
Well, again, New York is a city of 5 boroughs. And ironically, our most productive, richest borough, Manhattan, is the one that has suffered the most, because that's where the remote capacity has just taken the people out of the city. There is not foot traffic. There aren't commuters coming in on the subways and the railroads. So the MTA, our transportation systems have lost their revenues, lost their constituency. The small businesses in Manhattan pay enormous rents and really have not been able to pay those rents because they haven't had any revenues without the folks coming into the office. So this is a huge impact. It's a concentrated impact, again, on certain sectors, on the small business community, but that is big for all New York.
You know, listen, I saw Peggy Noonan's piece, and usually Peggy Noonan and I were not confused for one another, but I thought she was way more right than she was wrong. The conclusion that the old New York won't come back, I don't think she's right, but I'm worried maybe it's just because I don't want her to be right. I mean, I got teenage kids, and we were talking. I said, listen, well, you're going to go work in New York City. You're going to go live in New York City. It's a rite of passage for anyone to grow around here. And one of them turned to me like, you sure? Really? And I was like incredulous. But do we take givens, Catherine, you and I, about what the city is and has been for so long that maybe we got to rethink the metric as much as we don't want to?
Well, I and Peggy, perhaps, are old enough to have lived through New York from the 60s to the 70s to the 80s. And so we know what big damage looks like in the city. We know how fragile the city is, how fast things can go wrong. You know, in the 70s, we lost half our Fortune 500 companies. We lost 1 million people and as many jobs. And it took 30 years to build that back and recover. And in the interim, we had to suffer with terrible high crime rates. The schools deteriorated. The problem of homelessness emerged. So this is almost a collapsed replay of what those of us who were here from 68 to 78 saw happen to the city in a very short period of time. But it was much longer than it's been since the COVID struck. And the impact of the COVID is so much greater. The other point that Peggy Noonan made is that it has accelerated changes in our economy that were going to be evolutionary. Whether it's remote work, because people want more flexibility in their lives, more work-life balance, or whether it is the triumph of technology in education, in the workplace, where we've digitized the economy and gone instantly from brick and mortar shopping in the stores to online. All of that has happened very quickly.
I do know there's a couple things that have to happen and I know I was shocked by your number that you've had 300,000 residents of high-income neighborhoods that have had change of address forms. And I'll be honest, before I saw that number, I thought there was a lot of hyperbole about people fleeing Manhattan. I said, okay, once the world reopens, they're going to come all back. Maybe not. And the mayor, and I know some of my progressive friends are going to like this idea of demonizing the wealthy when they're going to subsidize a lot of this is ass backwards. So how do you do both? How do you obviously get the crime rate down to where to a safer city, entice the wealthy to say, well, probably having to increase taxes at least marginally on that population? I don't see the leadership out of Gracie Mansion to do that. But I don't see leadership anywhere saying where the path forward is going to be on the elected side. Are you concerned that this is desperately screaming for leadership and it hasn't been filled?
Well, we have seen real leadership from the White House, from Senator Schumer. He has worked with the Biden administration to create a stimulus package, which hopefully will pass the Senate in the next couple of weeks. That stimulus package is going to really help our recovery. New York City was hit first and hardest by the pandemic, and we're going to see a big investment in our stages, in our restaurants, in our small business. That's going to be critical to our recovery. Our economy has kept going through this pandemic because the financial industry and the professional services industries that support the financial industry were able to switch to remote operation. And they are generating tax revenues that are far exceeding the projections. At the beginning of the pandemic said, at the pandemic, everybody thought we were going to be broke. The city would have no tax revenues. That is not happened because our financial industry has led the remote function of our economy and kept things going. So we've learned positive lessons, and we've got to now step back, quit the political rhetoric, quit blaming somebody else for our problems and recognize that New Yorkers are going to have to come together from across the state, across the region. We're going to have to come together with practical plans.
Yeah, I wondered, some of the loudest voices who wanted to make sure Amazon didn't come to New York, where are they right now? You've got a lot ahead of you. Hopefully, at least we begin to reopen this summer maybe. But how it reopens, as they say, the jury's still out on. Catherine, as always, I appreciate a few minutes. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, folks, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll have the very latest on COVID, and we have some, at least to this point here, some hopeful news here. Not out of the woods yet, but still some positive news on the forefront. More on that after this.
If you have Medicare, you've probably paid thousands of dollars in Medicare taxes. You may be eligible to get more for your money. Medicare Advantage plans provide all-in-one coverage for your hospital, medical, and prescription drug benefits. Plans may cover dental, vision, hearing, and expanded at-home telemedicine visits. They may even offer dentures, free eyeglasses, free hearing aids, free gym memberships, and free transportation to medical appointments. Over 37 million people with Medicare don't have a plan like this. Are you missing out? Call the Say Medicare helpline to check your eligibility. The call and help are completely free. You may be able to get all the benefits you want and need from one Medicare Advantage card. And that could simplify your life and wallet, too. You just need one card for doctor checkups, dental cleanings, eye exams, and more. You may be able to join a plan with $0 copays for doctor visits, $0 medical deductibles, $0 drug deductibles, and even $0 premiums. You may qualify to get up to $148 added back to your Social Security check every month. If you have Medicare, you may be eligible for a Medicare Advantage plan with extra benefits. But no one, I repeat, no one is going to give you these benefits automatically. Don't wait. You must call the number on your screen. We can search for affordable plans in your area that accept your current doctor and prescriptions. You've worked hard your entire life, so see if you're eligible to get the benefits you want and deserve. Call the Say Medicare helpline to speak with a U.S.-based licensed insurance agent. All callers will receive a free, no-obligation Medicare benefits review.
Call 800-902-7507. That's 800-902-7507. Call now.
8 years ago, my daughter called to say she was expecting our first grandchild, but I never heard her say it. So a few years ago, Gina bought me a nano hearing aid. And now I love hearing Ryan call me Papa. And at only $297 for a full pair, they make a great gift for someone you know. Plus, call now and order one hearing aid, and Nano will give you a second absolutely free.
Call 1-800-238-2857.
Welcome back, and I'm happy to report we've got some good news when it comes to COVID. More than 2 million Americans are now getting vaccinated each and every day, and at least 60 million people have now gotten at least one dose. That is 1 in 4 adults across America. Plus, the CDC releasing guidance saying that people who are fully inoculated can now safely gather together without masks, and people who got their shots can visit with people who are low risk. That means many grandparents can finally see their grandkids for the first time in a year in many cases. Plus, as you can see from the graphic in front of you, all of the numbers that matter, they're trending down, and trending down sharply. Cases, fatalities, hospitalizations, all data plunging. Now, many states, they're also loosening up and pulling back on the COVID restrictions, but health experts do warn the pandemic is far from over, so people still have to be on alert. A Senate committee held a hearing today about the government response to COVID, and also, well, we have to look out as we move forward. Frontline health workers testifying, they warn too early to do a victory lap.
These public health measures cannot just go away. We have to continue to dial up while we're also thinking about very carefully what we can dial down. But unless we do that carefully, unfortunately, we can see another surge. And that's what this virus has taught me this entire year. It is a super slick virus that has broken every rule in the playbook. And if we are not super smart in response, then exactly what will happen will be another potential surge.
Dr. Shah also spoke about the challenges that epidemiologists have faced due to the lack of coordinated 50-state strategy to deal with this pandemic.
I will tell you on the front lines, it has been so challenging this entire year of up and down, back and forth, left and right, this and that, to try to fight a pandemic. And so all the tools that we can have, there are roles of government at the federal level, at the state level, and the local level that all work together. So ultimately, we are protecting the community member.
Another topic today was something that we've covered extensively on this program, the so-called long haulers, the people suffering symptoms after several months after first catching COVID.
When our president declares a public health emergency over, we are going to find a large number of Americans with substantial disability from this virus, from this infection. And the cost of that, human and financial, is going to be long-term. And we're going to have to manage that as a country.
Dr. Jha, he also spoke about schools, and he had some good news for parents who are understandably anxious to get their kids back into the classrooms.
I think most schools in America can open safely as long as we put in important mitigation efforts, universal masking, reasonable ventilation, and I believe testing does add a layer of protection. I have at this point believed, given how much vaccines we have, that I think we should go ahead and vaccinate teachers and staff. It would certainly add a very important layer of protection. But there's no doubt in my mind that we can get schools open in a way that can keep kids and teachers and staff safe.
And I should note that President Biden is giving a primetime address Thursday night to talk about COVID, that on the one-year anniversary of the first shutdowns. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll wrap things up.
IRS, open up.
The IRS is the most feared agency in the country and has the power to seize assets, garnish wages, and even put you in jail for back taxes and unfiled tax returns. Don't be a victim. Call Kick IRS right now and let us kick those IRS problems out of your life once and for all. Our powerful team of tax experts will fight hard for you and will not stop until we've resolved your tax problems on your terms. And if you qualify, we may even reduce or eliminate your tax debt altogether. No more sleepless nights wondering when the IRS is going to come after you. Take control of your tax problems today and make the phone call. We have an A rating with the Better Business Bureau, and we offer a 100% written guarantee, so there's nothing to lose and everything to gain. The consultation is free and the phone call is free, so pick up the phone right now and kick those IRS problems out of your life once and for all.
Call 1-800-284-0468 to get the tax help you need today. Again, that's 1-800-284-0468 or go to kickirs.net.
This is important news for people who have taken Zantac or its generic ranitidine and then suffered from cancer. Zantac and generic ranitidine have been linked to cancers such as bladder cancer and kidney cancer. According to the FDA, Zantac and ranitidine contain NDMA, a known cancer-causing agent. NDMA has been linked to cancers of the bladder, kidney, colon, esophagus, liver, ovaries, pancreas, and other cancers. If you or a loved one took Zantac or ranitidine and were then diagnosed with cancer, call the lawyers at Davis & Crump right now to see if you're eligible for a cash award and medical expenses. Call the lawyers at Davis & Crump right now if you or a loved one took Zantac or generic ranitidine and were then diagnosed with bladder cancer, kidney cancer, or any of these cancers. Call now to see if you're eligible for a cash award and medical expenses. Our first consultation is free, and we don't get paid unless you get paid. Call Davis & Crump right now. Operators are standing by.
I didn't know some Medicare Advantage plans may pay for dental visits. Did you?
I didn't know some Medicare Advantage plans may pay for transportation to my doctor. Did you?
I didn't know some Medicare Advantage plans may pay to have my prescriptions delivered directly to my home. Did you?
These and more are important benefits some Medicare Advantage plans may give you. So if you're eligible for Medicare, call us right now because you could enroll in a plan with some amazing additional benefits. Call now.
That's going to do it for RFL tonight. Thank you so much, as always, everybody, for being such a big part of our program. We'll be back here tomorrow night, 6 p.m. Eastern, as always. I'll see you Wednesday.
Attention.